Hi Ernest, how are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you, Marco. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for accepting the invite and taking the time. Yes, you must be really busy. Like Rust Nation
Yeah,
is really near
yeah,
around the
very,
corner.
very busy. It's been a really exciting time. It's been very tiring. It's been challenging as well, but it's been a lot of fun. And we are right at the point where we're really ready to welcome, all of the Rust stations who are going to be in London for Rust Nation.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we're going. So in this episode, we're going to say everything we need to say about Rust Nation, like the schedule, what to
Mhm.
expect. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Uh,
Hopefully, really fun. I think uh, the focus for me is always to bring a sense of fun and excitement to the conference experience. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be interesting, it's going to be insightful, but mostly I really want people to enjoy themselves and have a sense of fun and connection at Ross Nation.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, cool. Let's go. Welcome to RustShip. RustShip is the podcast for developers who ship Rust code. I'm your host, Marco Iani. I'm a Rust developer. I'm a Rust developer and I enjoy talking to other people, especially other developers, and especially about Rust. So here we are. This is RustShip episode number 7, and today we have Ernest Kissiedu with us. Hi, Ernest.
Hi, Marco. Well done on getting my surname right. You did a lot better than me, than I did with your surname. So, congratulations.
Yeah, a lot of people misspell my surname.
Yes,
They
I
think
did that.
it's normal. Like a lot of people,
Yeah.
I have like all sorts of gadgets with my surname spelled Lenny instead of Yanni.
Oh man,
No, bro,
apologies.
no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah.
Yes,
But you did very well with my name, so thank you very much.
doing my best. Yes, yeah. I misspelled many guests. I can tell you for sure. So Ernest is the Rust Nation curator and Rust London community lead. So I met Ernest at Eurorust 2023, and like the first thing he said to me was, "Hey Marco, I have a good news for you. We accepted your talk for Rust Nation." So it was really happy
Yeah, I'm
discussion.
very
Yes.
glad to share that. Yeah, yeah, because your talk submission previously was so good, and you caused me a lot of agony, because when we were looking at the talks for the inaugural Rust Nation, you submitted a talk and it was so good, but I had it weighed up against another talk which was really similar. And when we were discussing that, it was like, oh, I really wish I could have both of these in. And I felt really bad I had to break the news to you that yours missed out on that one. But I was even more happy that I was able to break the news to you that this time round for Rust Nation 2024, your talk was definitely going to be there. So, yeah, agony, but also I was very joyous that the first time I saw you in person, I was able to give you good news, basically.
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. Thank you for that. Yes. And yes, like no worries for the previous edition. I think you are in a really difficult spot about like selecting talks. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to definitely give tips to people who want to submit their talks on how to maybe have the give like send the best submissions that they can. And yes, so we're going to talk about Rust Nation, of course, and yeah, we're going to. I will ask Ernest what is Rust Nation, what to expect from it, some lessons that he learned from the past edition, and also organizing this one, tips on how to send good talk proposals. And I also want to talk about Rust London, which is one of the biggest
Mhm.
Rust communities in the world. And yeah, I'm sure that you have many tips for people who want to start their Rust community, maybe. So yeah, let's start from Rust Nation. What is Rust Nation, and what should we expect from it?
So, Rust Nation is a conference experience for people who are building things in the Rust programming language. So, I think I can give a little bit of historical context and take a step back. It involves, just how Rust Nation came about. Coming into, what we can describe as a post-pandemic world, a lot of people were eager to get back into in-person events, and also at the time, for the ecosystem at large, it felt like this was the moment for there to be a really big gathering of rustaceans and people who are building things, and people who want to share their stories, share their war stories on how they have gone through the process of building things. There is a enterprise tilt in who our conference serves. So we distinguish ourselves by being very much a conventional conference per se, compared to some of the other Rust focused conferences in the ecosystem. Uh, you can describe RustConf, for example, as the UN of Rust conferences, in the sense of it acts as the symposium where everybody from the ecosystem gets together. That's the only reason why I'm using that particular analogy. Uh, you also have other conferences like Eurorust, but we focused and we have a very clear agenda that we want to be the conference where people, both in enterprise and individually, have a platform to share the process of what they're building in the Rust language, as well as other types of learnings as well. I like to have a tilt and a skew towards the process. How did you come about building that framework? How did you go through the process of building that application? What led you, and what challenges and what processes did you go through to build what you built in Rust? That's who Rust Nation serves as a conference, and that's where we're trying to uh, give people the opportunity mostly. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're saying like maybe it's not the best conference to talk about the, I don't know, latest design of async trades and stuff like that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
maybe to
Yeah.
showcase what you build with Rust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the primary focus. We do serve the whole spectrum of Rust talks, and we are a platform that is inclusive and open to any kind of talk. So we do have, talks that delve deep into the type system. That we do have talks that delve deep into the features and the new features of the language, but we will always have a tilt and a focus on building. This is a users conference, and this is a conference for individuals who are really looking to utilize the language in a way that showcases the power of the language.
Great. Great to hear that. I definitely enjoy hearing war stories, as you said, yes. And would you say that is this conference like what's the target of the conference? Maybe beginners, expert, or both?
So, as I said, this is an inclusive conference, so we welcome everyone of all levels. We
Great.
welcome everybody at whatever stage they are as a rustacean. With there being the specific tilts that I mentioned, you will find that there will be more of a certain type of rustacean there. So if you're showcasing what you've built, it can still be, a to-do app or anything else like that. But with our enterprise focus and tilt, you will find that there will be more people who have had a longer period of time with the language, maybe people who are a bit more experienced in the language, to have gone through certain processes and gone through certain difficulties and trials, to be able to share what they have. But we will always welcome everyone. Again, if you have a compelling enough story for your to-do app that you built in Rust, then you're still welcome to present at Rust Nation. So yeah, we welcome everyone. Essentially, we're very focused on being inclusive, but bring a story and bring learnings for others who want to build with the language. So that's what we always focus on.
Great, great. And I see that you have 4 tracks for the talks. I
Five, technically we have five.
Oh, okay. I only see.
Yeah. So if you include the hackathon that we're doing, that's technically 5 tracks
tell me
of
more
different
about the
things we have to
hackathon
do.
then.
Wow. So we are really excited to have the hackathon this year. That's one of the crown jewels of the conference experience. We are working with Helsing.ai, who are an amazing team. You may know that John Genset, the author of Rust for Rustations, is the principal engineer there. And they are an amazing team doing some really incredible things, both in areas of AI and embedded. And we're working with them to put on an in-conference hackathon that gives you the opportunity to get hands-on with manipulating and controlling drones and RC cars with through Rust code. So you'll be able to hack and put together some of the challenges that they have devised that will allow you to control an RC drone, a card drone, and an RC car with a camera on the day during the conference. And it's a very, very exciting thing that we've been able to pull off. And I'm really, again, very grateful to the Helsing team for all the work that they've put in. It's going to be an incredible feature for people who want to get hands on with the language, especially areas of the language that are really important for Rust in general. The Aero Rust community, headed by Lachazar Lechev, who's also going to be one of our speakers, are doing some incredible things with embedded devices and also in the safety critical area as well. So being able to actually get hands-on with that, with the Helsing team through the hackathon, I feel like it's going to be one of the things that I'm most excited about for the conference. I can't wait to see the drones flying around in the room and the cars moving around. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely sounds very fun. Yes, and I see that there are 3 talks for each
Yes,
slot and one
yes,
tutorial. Like, what's the
yes.
difference between talks and tutorials?
So tutorials are, again, an opportunity to get hands-on with the language. They contrast the talks in a way where you're not necessarily passively listening to someone give a presentation. You're actually going through and actually having an opportunity to actively work with the speaker as they demonstrate something to you. So 2 examples that I can give: the Shuttle team. I'm not sure if you've heard of Shuttle. They are a framework that everybody's raving about. Well, they're actually a framework as a service almost, because they allow you to derive backends very quickly through the way that their framework works. And you'll be able to work with Peter to spin up a microservices app on the day. I think that's his talk. I can't remember it off the top of my head now, but that's a tutorial that you'll be able to work on. There's also the Crux framework as well, which has been created by Red Badger. They are a team that are building out a framework that allows you to build cross-platform apps You have a core that's built, so your core business logic is built in Rust, and you're able to basically attach whatever sort of front end that you like. And they are going to give you a hands-on primer on how to basically do that. There's also a Ferrocene primer as well, so you'll be able to get hands-on with the Ferrocene toolchain. There's lots of tutorials. So tutorials contrast to talks in the way that they are not passive. You're not just listening to a talk. You're actually getting active and hands-on as well. I'm very big on that. That's a very big part thing, a very important thing for me personally.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Like the the offering is impressive, absolutely. And yeah, like the like there are many good talks. Also, the keynotes are like very solid.
Thank
And
you.
like I won't name my favorites because, but for like for
No,
example, there is
go ahead. No worries, please.
I, like for sure I will name the talk of Ellie, which because
Yeah,
she's been on the episode 3 of the podcast, and she will talk
amazing.
about the syncing
Yeah.
mechanism of Adwin, which she also
Mm,
mentioned here at the podcast. So definitely looking
yeah.
forward to that. Yes. Yeah, cool. And also there are going to be workshops on the first day, right?
Yes. Yes. Again, we've been incredibly privileged to work with some of the most prominent trainers in the Rust ecosystem to offer a full day again of hands-on training for people who are wanting to level up themselves as Rust developers, whether you're coming from a company and they've sent you to come down and get yourself primed to be able to, work on a POC back at wherever you're working, or just for yourself as an individual, if you want to level up your understanding and your skill, you are in the right place with the workshops. We have 3 trainers that you probably are very well aware of. Luca, I mean, I don't really have to say much more about Luca, the rock star. Luca from Main Matter, there, he is going to be doing a workshop on testing, which is an area that people are very interested in. It's like kind of seen as a bit of a dark art, and there's probably no better person to learn from than Luca Palmieri. Then we also have the Arden Labs team, who are going to be taking our intermediate track. We focused on having 3 tracks that were very poignant and very focused on people's current and trending need. One of the learnings that we took from the first inaugural conference was that having a beginner's workshop track wasn't necessarily beneficial to everyone because, as Rustaceans or people coming into the community and ecosystem, your
Oh, we lost
and beginner
Ern.
materials.
We lost you for a bit.
Apologies. I was just
I
saying
can't
that.
hear you now. Okay, now
Hello, can you hear
yes.
me?
Yeah, yeah. So you were
Sorry,
saying
but
about the no problem. You were saying about the beginner's track. You were saying that it wasn't beneficial to have it.
yes, because a lot of people gave us feedback that there are so many beginner resources out there, and Azure Stations was sport for
Mm.
choice. You have Rustlings, you have Rust by example, you have Exorcism, you have so many different beginner tools and resources for free that having a beginner workshop that's paid for wasn't necessarily beneficial for people. So we took that on board and we focused on having workshops that benefit people where they are, which is why we have an intermediate, we have a quote unquote expert track, whatever that means in the world of Rust, right? Who really ever does consider themselves an expert unless you're like like a John Genset or a Luca or something like that. Then we also have a Rust in Enterprise workshop, which I'm very, very excited about. We partnered with Tim McNamara, the author of Rust in Action, to have a workshop that gives people the understanding, and it primes them to really know the different elements and facets of doing Rust in production. We're at a very interesting phase in the Rust ecosystem where we're moving out of hobbyist mode. We're moving out of a mode where people are doing projects for themselves and just because the language is really cool, to where there are certain expectations, where there are certain demands, and where there are specific criteria that need to be met. And Rust in production and Rust for enterprise is a very different thing to doing Rust in your own time, right? Or Rust as a hobbyist. So understanding the tooling, understanding some of the ways and means and processes and hacks that you could learn to be really effective, and to actually really sell Rust through production is something that we want to offer the community through Tim's workshop. So Tim's workshop is broken up in 3 parts, and it gives you a flavor of different parts of how to work with Rust in production, whether you're actually creating a POC to prove that Rust is something that your organization should use, or whether you're moving beyond that and you're building something that you want to be out there in the world in a real and meaningful way. Tim's workshop is really, really exciting, and it's great for that as well. So those are our 3 workshop tracks.
Great. And so you mentioned that uh, you learned that like a beginner workshop wasn't really needed. Are there other
Mm.
lessons that you learned from the previous edition that you
Oh yeah,
corrected in this one?
yeah, a lot. Doing something like this, it really gives you a sense of where we are in general, in terms of Rust as a thing, Rust as a proposition. You get to see how the ecosystem is growing. You get to see where we are, because people come in person, and Reddit is great, Discord is great, Twitter X is great, but actually being around people, networking, and actually seeing how the ecosystem is evolving in real time from real people, I feel like you get invaluable insights from that. From an organizational point of view, it we learned that there is a huge demand for the language. There is a lot of goodwill towards the language and the ecosystem, but there are things that still need to be done, and there are holes and gaps that still need to be filled for us to be a fully formed option that can be on the same scale and stratosphere as a Python or C Sharp or Kotlin. And there are many facets to why an organization chooses a technology or a language. And it's not just the language being cool or being great in and of itself. There are a lot of other in between messy factors that also come to play as well. And I feel like one of the lessons that you learn is you see how those uh, gaps are being filled in real time. And it fills you with a sense of optimism. It fills you with a sense of expectation. When you're in the Rust bubble, when you're so entrenched in the ecosystem, you would already feel like, yeah, of course, Rust is a no-brainer. It's going to be whatever, right? But you also have to understand that there are still people who are just discovering the language. And that's one of the things that really surprised me about our inaugural conference was the amount of companies that came out of the woodwork that have been tinkering with Rust really blew me away. You know, we had so many representatives from so many different companies who I didn't even know were interested in Rust or looking at Rust in so many different sectors that we had to really, you know, when we crunched the data and we looked at our attendee data, it was like, wow, you know, this is amazing. You know, I met people from Continental Tires, but Continental, the automotive company, I didn't know that they were using Rust. I think we had people from Audi there, AstraZeneca, so many different areas and different domains and industries that are tinkering with Rust and really taking it seriously, or looking at it to take it seriously. It really did open my eyes to the potential. And that comes back to my original point about, you know, we can say that, are we there yet? Are we this yet? Are we that yet? You know, we've got all of these websites.
Yeah.
Are we async yet and everything else? Each conference and each time that we do things like this, it gives us the understanding of how closer we are to those points.
I see. And in your opinion, what are the main gaps that these companies are missing from Rust?
So yeah, this is a very interesting point, and this also actually leans into a very some other things that I've been helping the Rust Foundation with. So I'm excited to say that I have been helping the Rust Foundation uh, by being their person on the ground and connecting with companies, also helping them understand a lot of what is going on the ground, so that, you know, the right resources and the right help can be given into the right areas. I'm also helping them focus on being more open and uh, inclusive to the global Rust community by me helping a lot of new fledgling communities get themselves up off the ground. So that's through their Rust Global initiative, which I'm really excited to talk more about later. But a lot of communities that are not based in Europe or North America, I am helping them through the foundation come up to speed. So you're going to see a lot more from global communities like Rust India, Rust Nigeria, Rust Latam, Rust Asia, because Rust is a global language and there should be global representation. And I'm very grateful to the foundation in recognizing that and allowing me, empowering me to help those communities. To answer your question, it's really important that we realize that, yes, we may feel that Rust is a sure thing, but a lot of people are still looking at having Rust have a solidified foundation. And by one example of that is, people still want to know, which crates should I use? You know, which crates are the blessed crates? And there is a website called blessed.rs, which gives you that. But what we tend to find is a lot of people are, they're spoiled for choice with the number of crates out there. And because of the growing and fluid nature of the language, you know, one day Dioxys is the front end framework, and then Leptos comes in, and then there's this, and then there's that. So you don't really know where to go if you just want a stable choice. You don't know what is the go-to. In other ecosystems, that's already pretty much established. You just know you're gonna choose pandas for what you need that for. You know that you're gonna choose React if you're in the JavaScript framework world. And Rust is still growing and Rust is still solidifying that. The cement isn't quite dry yet, but that's a good thing because we're still seeing a lot of that emerging. Some people want that assurity now, for them to be able to go to their senior and say, look, let's use Rust because we are sure that this and this and this is the stable thing to use. Sometimes there's been mention that the versioning system in Rust doesn't quite allow for that approach. But that's actually by design. You know, the conservative nature of Rust's versioning system is a feature and not a bug. But translating that message to people who are just coming into the community and don't have that context is something I feel that's really important. You know, the way Rust does things to keep you safe isn't always necessarily clear to people who are just entering into the community and the ecosystem.
What do you mean by Rust versioning system? Like you mean that?
So a lot of
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of the reasons why we go to like 0.76
Oh.
things like that, a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
people are like, well, like is this ready? Like, is this what, like, you know, and we've seen a few crates go to, you know, 1.0, but 1.0 isn't really a thing in the Rust ecosystem, right? But someone coming into the Rust ecosystem who wants to sell Rust to their quote unquote next level high up, they'll be like, well, there are no stable crates in it to people that there are no stable crates in this ecosystem because
We lost you again for. Can you just say that again? So
oh,
you were saying
sorry,
that just 2 seconds. So you were saying that people complain that there are no stable crates. Yes.
no, sorry, not to say that people complain. It can come across as that
Okay.
to new individuals entering the ecosystem who want to make the case for Rust,
Yeah.
and they don't have the understanding or the context of how Rust is conservative with, you know, just slapping 1.0 on anything,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I agree that people think that not yeah, not everyone, but maybe who is new to the Rust ecosystem, since they see the version that is like 0.xy, they
Yeah,
think, okay, this is not production ready. Maybe there are
right,
bugs and stuff like
exactly,
that. Instead,
exactly,
what the Rust community wants to say with that is, hey, if there is a zero as the measure number, it means that I might break the API. So that
right,
maybe I will change the number of parameters of a function, stuff like that.
right, right,
But actually, I think it's the contrary. Like there are a lot of articles, and also from my experience, I can see that the level of quality of the Rust library is probably unmatched with
right,
others other programming languages, because
yes,
there is the Rust compiler that ensures that there is a minimum level of quality, and so like by just by using Rust libraries, you know that there are no memory issues and all
right,
the good stuff that
right,
we know.
right,
Yeah.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think again, it's more so of a marketing uh, issue rather than a structural issue. I think another key marketing or quote unquote marketing issue is really helping people understand that Rust is a general purpose language. Rust is not a systems language. Rust is a general purpose language. And I think we are getting better at that. I think there are efforts being made across the board to ensure that people understand and know that entering into this community, Rust is a general purpose language. You can use it for anything. Anything that you want to build, you can use Rust for. And the more that we see that, the more that we have conferences and things like that, of that nature, the more people will understand that as a core message that Rust is a general purpose language.
Yes, absolutely. This is a bit our fault too, because like a few years ago, we were like or even in the Rust website, it was written like that Rust is a system programming language. But I think
Yeah.
since we saw that it's used for everything now, it's just
Mhm.
yeah, it's a more generic. There is a more generic message, like empowering
Absolutely.
everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I agree that like it's. I use it for everything myself, so I agree
Right. Right.
100% with
Right.
that. And
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, like
Absolutely.
if you like even by the talks of Rust Nation, you see that is used uh, in all spaces, in all domains, and yeah,
Exactly,
probably we will.
exactly.
The
That
message
was a big
will stick.
mandate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big mandate that we had as a team to ensure that the talks were representative of that. So we, I purposely sought out certain individuals to invite for talks, as well as when looking through the CFP, we really focused on making sure that it hit that goal to showcase the wide spectrum of what you can do with the language, and to showcase the repertoire and the different and the diversity of what's being built with the language. So I was so glad and so grateful when certain people submitted talks, like Ben from Leptos, but then also Jonathan from Ferris Systems, because those are two different ends of the spectrum, but they showcase the diversity of what you can do with the language. You've got a front end web framework, and then you've got safety critical systems, and a tool chain built for creating, built for train systems and cars. So I think that and everything else in between is what we really want to showcase through Rust Nation. The diversity of what you can build and the repertoire that Rust has as a general purpose language.
Yeah, and yeah, it shows in the talks. Yes, I just went to the Rust website. Now the slogan is a language empowering everyone to build reliable and
Yes,
efficient software. So yeah,
yes, yes. Yeah, the
nice.
tagline was changed. The tagline was changed, I think, a couple of years ago, which was
Yes,
great.
yeah,
And which
exactly.
was a really important step. I think we need to go further in advertising that and really showcasing that in an important way, so that people don't. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable because, for example, Rust is always pitted against other systems programming language when you talk about performance and safety. So that always kind of brings the conversation back into the systems programming realm. But the benefits and the USP of Rust actually is in every area and every domain that it's used in, because the type safety, the compiler, it works for everything that you build, not just in one specific domain. So, we have to stop being compared to like C++ and stuff, and actually just focus on the fact that we're a general purpose language.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. Yes. Cool. And so let's say that I I don't know. I'm new to Rust, and maybe I want to start showing what I've done, right?
Mm.
And I want to show this at a conference or at the meetup. What are your tips on sending good proposals to a conference?
So I think the first step would be to know the conference that you're sending it to. And what I mean by that is, before, just sending off something to a CFP, take a look at the website, take a look at their previous conferences and the talks that they've uploaded to YouTube, and understand the uh, agenda that they may have. What's the focus? It's a little bit difficult with Rust because there haven't been many Rust conferences compared to other programming languages, and the de facto conference was RustConf, which was meant to encompass and be just everything for everyone. But now we're in a position where there are many more Rust conferences and many more that are being planned and that are emerging. But I would say this for any conference and any programming language: you start by looking at the conference itself and looking at what their focus may be. I like to make it simple for people to, and I express our agenda very openly, and I express our focus very openly. That that's what we're about. So you should know what to expect from us when we evaluate talks. The second thing that I would say is, regardless of the conference, which may contradict what I've just said, but I do feel like regardless of the conference, everybody loves a story. Everybody loves to hear your personal journey. I understand that it's great to talk about a feature of the language that you may be enamored with, but if you can add an element of storytelling into your proposal, and if you can add a bit of a hero's journey into your proposal, it will be a lot more compelling than, necessarily just going straight into the technical details. I understand that CFPs can be mechanical, and there can be a tendency to treat them like, you're submitting to a scientific conference or something like that. But with developer conferences, there is a human element there where you want to also ensure that there is a compelling reason for your talk to be chosen. You know, you can have talks around the type system and, ownership and borrowing and, macros and all of the deeper nuances around language features that are still compelling if there are elements of, humanity baked into them, and I truly believe that. So I would say always look to tell a compelling story through even something that you're trying to teach. And also try to ensure that you have a focus on not being too mechanical if you are focused on a language feature type of talk. Storytelling and understanding the art of storytelling will definitely help you get more accepted talk proposals. That's one thing that I can definitely say as a top tip. Study and understand how to tell stories, and you'll be in a much better position to endear people towards your talk.
That's a great tip. Yes, I think, like as a person who goes at conference, I think learning something is great, but you also want to
Mm.
be entertained, and yeah,
Mm.
nothing
Mm.
better than like hearing your journey towards your goal. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a great tip.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I'm curious to hear what are the biggest challenges when it comes to organizing Rust Nation? Maybe
Oh.
last year and also this year.
Well, how long do we have? We're going to
How?
be here. My goodness. Conferences are incredibly multifaceted and unwieldy endeavors. It's taking up a lot of my time and my life. It's eaten into a lot of my developer time, time that I use to learn the language and grow in the language. But it's also allowed me to learn things as well. The first and the most important challenge is the finance. It comes down to the uh, balance between making your conference as accessible as possible in the landscape that we're in, and dealing with the real hard facts on the ground, inflation, being in a city that's incredibly expensive and how that carries over to venue, focusing on your own time expenditure on this, as well as taking care of the costs that come with putting on such a huge endeavor. Our travel budget tripled this year, just because of the carryover of inflation from last year into this year. We had a 15% increase in the venue price because of inflation. We have so many elements that have really been challenging this year in particular, as well as the general kind of negative sentiment through all the layoffs and in the tech industry in general that have also been incredibly challenging. We're really grateful to all of the supporters that we've been able to connect with this year, who are going to be exhibitors at Rust Nation, who provided sponsorship to even make this happen. But that's been the biggest challenge this year. Is, a lot of companies are just completely cutting out their event budgets, and they're really kind of scaling back. There's a real sense of fear and trepidation through the tech industry in general, and that's kind of carried over into um, conferences as well. And then that also helps you realize that, like, okay, people are really interested in Rust, but there's still levels and there's still a few places we need to be before people get to a place where they're like happy piling money into the language and the ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow, it must be tough for this year. Yes,
Very, 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 very tough. Yeah.
but yeah, I thank you from all the community to making it happen. Yes. uh, Great. So I don't know. Like I was about to ask advices on people who want to start a conference, but maybe.
Don't do it. Don't do it for your own sanity. Oh,
But
for
okay,
your
yeah,
no. I mean, it is a great endeavor if you're able to pull it off. I would say, again, have a understanding of your own agenda. Don't just do it because you think it's cool or you think that, hey, it would be a nice thing to do. There has to be more of a reason than that. Who do you serve? Which part of the ecosystem do you serve? And what is your particular agenda? Again, we're very explicit with our agenda that we have an enterprise tilt and leaning, so we know what we're in for. We know where our focus is and we know who we serve through the ecosystem. So know your purpose, ask the hard questions about who who do we serve through this conference, which part of the ecosystem do we serve, and then make sure you partner with an events company. You cannot do this on your own, just as uh, a glorified meetup or a few people who feel like they have the will or have expressed some interest in the language. You have to partner with people who have experience in putting on large conferences like this. I was very, 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 very blessed to be partnered with a events team who approached me because of the consistency that we've had with Rust London and because of the size of Rust London. The events team approached me and they were like, hey, dude, you're the Rust London guy. It feels like London is primed and ready for a big conference that has an enterprise tilt for Rust. Let's do it. We'll take care of the logistics. We'll take it, as in them being the events company, they'll take care of the logistics and the nuts and bolts and all the rest of it. And, that just left me with the curation and the developer experience. So you have to partner with an events company and know that you're both in it together with a specific agenda and with a specific mandate for who you serve. So those are the things I would definitely say would be important to focus on.
great. Yeah, I think it's useful for like to say that part of things so that maybe the listeners who are still saying, okay, but the listeners who are saying, yeah, but I still want to do it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
now you can do it because you know all the disadvantages and the hard parts.
Yeah,
But
no, of course.
speaking about Rust London, yes, like tell us a bit more about it.
So Rust London,
We lost you for a bit again. Um, yeah, just a few seconds that Ernest comes back online. Let's see if it's me. No, it's not me. Okay. Okay, so it wasn't a few seconds, but I'm sure Ernest will be online again. By the way, yes, Rust London is, I think it's probably the second biggest community, I think, in the world. At least this is what Ernest said in the Rust Nation Station podcast episode of last year. Check it out if you haven't. He was talking about in that podcast. He was talking about Rust Nation 23, so the previous edition. Yes, and yeah, he was sharing that Rust London is the second biggest Rust meetup after I think the San Francisco meetup. So it's a very big meetup, and uh, is also available like online. So you can join even if you're not in London, even if you are online. And by the way, if you have any questions for me or Ernest, feel free to type them in the chat and we will answer them. Okay, so Ernest texted me saying that his battery died. Are you able to charge your laptop? Let's see. But yeah, at least we finished the discussion about Rust Nation. Hopefully, it will come back because I wanted to ask more questions about Rust London and in general Rust communities, because I feel like we said, that organizing a conference is a huge effort, and I totally believe it. But maybe you can organize like small communities. And also, there is a format of conference which I really like. They are called unconferences, uh, which I would say they are more informal, and maybe they are a bit easier to organize. Not that much, but of course it's still a conference. But like the way unconferences work is that there is no schedule. Like nobody selects the talk. You go to the conference, and then you if you want to talk about something, you write it on a whiteboard and you say, I want to talk about I don't know, I think Rust, and I will do it in this room. And so people who want to follow you, they go with you. Otherwise, they can follow other yeah they can go in other rooms. So I like this format. If you like this kind of conferences, the one I went to was is called Socrates, and if you search for Socrates, I think you find maybe you can search for Socrates on conference, and it's across Europe, and not sure if even more than that. And yeah, I really enjoyed us conferences, and yeah, call to action. Like it would be really cool to see a Rust unconference. Yeah, and yeah, since I'm from Italy, and I'm really proud that in Italy we have a Rust conference that is really nice. It's called the Rust Lab. You can check it out at rustlab.it, if I remember correctly. And it's going like the first edition. I think it was in 2018 or 2019, so it has a good history. And yeah, I went there last 2 years. It's very nice. Also, it's in Florence, which is a very beautiful city. So if you want to visit Italy and you like Rust, check out Rust Lab. It will be towards the end of this year. Nothing has been announced yet, but they are working on it. So yeah, check it out. I'm still waiting to see if Ernest is available to come online. Not sure if I can ramble about something else. So maybe I can go through the Rust Nation schedule. Let's see. Yeah, there will be the Jonathan Pallant tutorial about ferrocene, which is basically a certification, I think. Like there are many people that want to use Rust in embedded, and for certain use cases, like for example, if you want to put Rust code in an airplane, and yeah, in places where the life of somebody is in danger, mainly, you cannot just like write any code and ship it to an airplane, for example. You need either to certify your code, which is very painful because you need to certify, I think, the assembly, or I mean, it depends on the use case, but like either I think that's it. Yeah, either you have a certified compiler, or if you don't have a certified compiler, you have to certify the assembly. So if you don't use a certified Rust compiler, you need to certify that you have to demonstrate that your assembly is like works correctly. Okay. While if you use a certified compiler, you can say, hey, my code was compiled with this compiler, and so that is certified. And so the number of tests that you need to do in order to ship your Rust code to an airplane, it's way less. So it's way easier if you use a certified compiler to obtain permissions to ship to an airplane. Like this is my understanding. I'm not involved in the project, but yeah, it's a really cool project. Ooh, we have Ernest. It's going back. Yeah.
So that we can piece it together, right? Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Ernest, can you hear me?
Hello. Hi, Marco, can you hear me?
So Ernest, I can't see you, but
I can hear you.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can see you, and
Yes.
but I can't hear you. Maybe you're muted. I don't know.
Let me... Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Hang on.
No.
Sorry. 1 minute. Let me try.
Still nothing.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I was just rambling about Rust Nation Talks, so take your time to.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Audio.
Can you hear me now?
If somebody from the chat can hear Ernest, type it because I can't.
Can you hear me now?
So while Ernest,
I'll even come back. I'll even come back.
Also, Ernest, if you want to write something to me, you can use the. Oh, okay. Ernest just disconnected, so maybe it's refreshing. So then another talk I'm excited about is the one from Luca Palmieri about Pavex, which is a new web framework that he's working on, and it's cool because his goal is mainly to improve the developer experience of the of Rust backend development, basically. Like, I think the main reason why it's writing this web framework is because the compiler messages with the other frameworks are not that nice, especially for Rust beginners. And this is probably because once you introduce async, is a bit like the error messages gets a bit more difficult. And he's using a very interesting.
Hello?
Ernest is again here.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Marco?
Adding into the stream, so in a few seconds, maybe we can.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, though.
He's back.
Can you hear me? Sorry about this. Ah.
Hi, Ernest.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
I still can't hear you.
You still can't hear me? Oh man, what's going on? Okay, one moment, please.
It's very unfortunate.
Hello, can you hear me now?
But yeah, I was saying at least we spoke about Rust Nation.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, for sure. You tried to like switch, like use the laptop.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's something going on with my mic. Let me.
So if you test your mic, if you like use the test mic.
Yes.
Function,
okay.
are you able
Yes.
to hear yourself? Like, you can use the chat to communicate with me.
Yes.
The private chat on
Hello?
the
1 2
right.
3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
No. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just me and the others can hear you. I don't know. I'm just checking from the YouTube live if others can hear you.
Okay. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Michael?
Okay. So when you run the test, it works fine. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Maybe it's an issue with this
Hello?
recording software. I don't know.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Hello?
to do.
Hello?
Maybe.
Hello?
If somebody in the chat can write if they can hear Ernest.
So I'm taking the mic out. Can you hear me now, Marco? Hello? 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 Hi, Marco, can you hear me now?
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, there is one message. Oh, okay. So there is one person that can hear both of us. Okay, so I can't hear you, but people can hear you. So I will ask the questions, but I can't hear the response.
Hang on, 1 sec.
So I will just ask the questions. Yes. So tell us a bit more. Tell us a bit more about, yeah. Tell us a bit about Rust London.
Okay. Uh, if you just bear with me one moment, I will try one more thing. I'll restart my computer and see if that changes anything and then come back. This is to the stream. So if you could relay that to Marco in the chat, I'm going to leave and then try and come back again.
I will also try to rejoin and see if it changes something.